As you first go through the grieving process, our culture will likely have made you very busy. In fact, you may find yourself completely overwhelmed by all that there is to do in the process of grief. There's phone calls to be made. There's needs of others to explain what happened. There are the planning processes of allowing yourself to have a funeral, arrangements, and all of the things and the expenses that go with this, that you will find yourself overwhelmingly busy. Then suddenly comes that moment. Quite often it's right after the funeral is over, but it can come at any moment for you, when the busyness suddenly stops and you find yourself in that empty and all too quiet home. It is in that home that suddenly, during that quietness, the grief overwhelms you. This is very typical for a number of people. In fact, they'll invite people to spend the night with them because they don't want to be alone. This too can happen, and it's very normal if it happens to you. Allow yourself to be aware that the empty house and the quietness of it can be deafening for you. And it's okay to find ways to deal with all of that. There are many ways in which this empty house can speak to you. If you are in your house, many people will tell you that you will have the experience of hearing voices of your loved one, or perhaps even seeing your loved one. All of these things can be very normal, but in a quiet house, they can also be overwhelming. Give yourself the freedom to allow all of these things to happen to you. It is amazing the stories that you'll hear from others about their experiences in that quiet and empty house. I was speaking to an individual recently who was talking about a dryer that had not been working. They just got back from the funeral, and all of a sudden, the dryer went on. Nobody touched the button. At first, the family was a little overwhelmed, but then they began to realize it's okay. And catch what they did with this. They said it was a message from their loved one saying that they'll be there with them, fixing things, caring for them, and watching over them. You too may have those kinds of experiences. And the simple things to do, if it's too much, know that the busier you are, the less likely you are to experience those kinds of things. Perhaps you want to experience those kinds of things. And as long as you're okay with it, make it work for you. The simplest thing to do when the house gets too quiet for you is the grief process of everybody's good friend, Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh dealt with grief by saying, in the saddest of moments, how blessed I am to have a loved one that I miss so deeply. And in those moments when you feel the quietness is overwhelming, allow yourself those moments to be times in which you reflect on how good your life is, but because you experience the goodness of that loved one. May God bless you as you do so.